So my subject for my math students would be on representing linear functions, and this would probably be around, I would say, 10th or 11th grade, for them to start understanding the concept of modeling linear functions. So this title of the text is Supply and Demand. Okay, and again, the core concept here is for students to understand how to model the relationship between two different quantities. Uh, so I already have this pre-annotated. So the first thing we would do, again, I would already have the words I want them to focus on and that I feel that they're going to have trouble with. Two of them are in red there. It's going to be fundamental and countervailing. So for fundamental, as we read through it, the supply and demand relationship is one of the fundamental concepts of economics. I would probably stop and ask the class, hey, fundamental, what does that mean? What is another word, a synonym for the word fundamental? And I think some of the responses I'm going to get would be important, or core, or main. And so we would probably go as a class, start trying to decode and understand what fundamental means in this context. But yes, it would most likely be main in this case. Okay. So I'll show them that we can annotate our readings so that we can actually understand it a little bit better. Okay, so as we go along, I would actually tell the students there's a lot of words that are bolded in the beginning of our passage here. So again, I'll show them the importance of giving your audience the words that they're going to need to understand the article that in the actual reading. So with this, I'd say they introduce new words, introduce keywords to understand supply and demand. Okay. And I have it here in yellow. I have a portion of the text in yellow, just so I could show students some of the grammar rules that are involved when you are writing about a specific topic. So, for example, right here, on the other hand, comma. So this would actually be a good time to start reinforcing some of the grammar rules that we have for our punctuation. So for the comma, you can use a comma after an introductory word, like a transition word or an introductory phrase. So right off the bat, I could tell them this is not a word, this is a string of words, so we could call this an introductory phrase. This is not a complete sentence, it's a dependent clause. And again, a dependent clause is just a string of words that is not a complete thought. So for the students, it'd be very good just to keep exposing them to grammar, bolded words, words that they have trouble with, and everywhere that there is an opportunity for them to learn a little bit more about, the conventions of English, I think is a good opportunity to show them. Okay. So also, as you keep reading, we'll still have more opportunities to see commas and use in different ways. So actually, I didn't highlight this one, but you can see that there's two different commas, and again, they have a list of items. So again, another rule that a usage rule that we have for commas would be to separate items in a list. Okay, you have price, supply, and demand. But you could probably start getting questions on why and is not part of that list, and we say this is actually going to be the comma conjunction we need in order to end your list. You need to end it with the Oxford comma and conjunction with your last item. Okay, so again, another word in red that we have here, countervailing. So the way I would kind of show how to decode this word would be to read it in context. So as you're reading, we'll see that supply and demand are quantities that increase and decrease based off of price. And so they never increase at the same time, they never decrease at the same time. They are opposites. So as we're reading through this, one of the key words, base words here, is counter. That just means opposing. So one of the ways that I would actually show students to decipher that word would just say, okay, this is opposing. A portion of this word means opposing. So these opposing trends, and use the words that you know and continue on with the reading so that you kind of get the idea of what countervailing means. You won't know the actual definition, but you can get an idea based off of the context. Okay, and so again, unfortunately, more comma rules, grammar rules commas after introductory words, ondia, and what is this one? Again, that's a list of items. Oh no, right here, what the relationship, other factors were involved in this situation. This is actually pretty cool. This one is a comma conjunction. It's combining two independent clauses right here with this one on the right. But this on the right actually has a list involved as well. So you can actually start using the rules for grammar to help just teach them about how you can combine ideas and items in a list. I highlighted this in red because we're going to be referencing that resource center in a little bit to give us additional examples. And again, in yellow, more chances to show students that the rules for grammar. Okay, and sometimes you do have a double comma rule, again, to get rid of non-essential phrases that just provide a little bit more description. And again, but as you're reading, you could start showing them how to navigate through the punctuation so that it is a little bit easier to comprehend. Okay, so as the example for connecting the reading for text to self, one of the examples I chose was crayons. Towards the beginning of the school year, crayons usually start becoming on sale, but now not anymore. So I would show students this graph and say this is the supply, right? The suppliers, this is what they would be looking at for in terms of how much they want to charge for the quantity of crayons, and for us it's the demand curve. Okay, as the quantity of crayons is, let's say, 7 boxes, right? For the supplier, they would like to charge you 50 cents per box for 7 boxes of crayons. But for us, we're thinking, wait, if we buy 7 boxes of crayons, we want to actually get each box for at a cheaper price. So you can see that as the quantity of boxes changes, there would be a different price assigned for each of those items. Okay, for supply and demand. And this point here is usually the sweet spot that we usually see at the store. Okay, that's usually going to be the price that you're going to be given, but more so on the supply side. So it won't ever really be skewed towards us getting a lower price unless it's about to expire. But crayons don't really expire, so we're usually going to be given a little bit, charge a little bit more for our items. So you can see that for 3 boxes, you get them for 30 cents, maybe 33 cents if the suppliers want to make a little bit more profit. But 33 cents is they'll usually go over that price that is at equilibrium for both. Okay, so that would be the example that I would choose. I remember that at the beginning of school, we would usually buy a lot of our school supplies at the beginning of the year, and usually that price was usually really low, very close to 10 cents. So as the supply increased, as the time for school was increasing, usually that supply line would be right over here, meaning we would actually get our crayons, a lot of crayon boxes, for like 10 cents each. Okay, so the supplier, again, based on their anticipation of how much of the product that they're going to be selling and the quantity demanded, they could actually change their prices and still get a profit depending on how much they make. Okay, so for the text connection, for the cranberries examples in the text, we could go over what it means for 2 lines to intersect. Okay, this would come down to system of equations. Okay, where you are at when you find these 2 equations of a line. Let's say the red one is this: y equals mx plus b, and let's say the green one is represented like this: y equals m1 x2 or x1 plus b1, right? They're different equations, but the cool thing about this is you could actually solve for the x coordinate, the input, the quantity that gives you the same price. Okay, when you have 2 functions that intersect, you could actually solve for their coordinates of where that intersection happens. But the cool part is actually interpreting that intersection. But what does that mean? Well, that means if the quantity of cranberries, let's say, is, I don't know how much they sell them per jar. Let's say it's about a 1 pound jar. 1 pound jar. Let's say that we demand a 1 pound amount of cranberries at around, I don't know, $5. And the supplier says, okay, we could actually sell you 1 pound of cranberries for about $5.10, because it's usually not going to be exact, right? They sell it to you for a little bit more, 5.25, 5.49, right? They'll go up a little bit and in that price, but it'll be around that range. That's actually going to be the solution to the system of equations, meaning you can actually use substitution here, set the red equation equal to the green equation, mx plus b equals mx m1x plus b1, and solve for that x coordinate that gives you that price, okay, that they're looking for. Okay, so that's how I would use it for the text-to-text connection for mathematics and for the text to the world. One of the cool things I saw when I actually went to that website right here in red was, I said, okay, let me see what that's all about. So I typed it in, and this came up as a reference for the cost of, cranberry. I'm pretty sure cranberries are here as well, but the one that caught my eyes was bees and honey. So I said, okay, let me look at some of the data for bees and honey, and you could see the states and how much they sell their honey for per 10,000 pounds, $2.70, $2.61, right? It's around the $2.50 to $3 range for these different states here. And so I just chose the one for California. How much do we sell our honey for per 10,000 or per pound? Okay, per pound. And so I saw that we'd sell it for $2.65 in 2021 and $2.96 in 2022. So I said, okay, if we have the 12% increase from those two years, we could actually just make a quick supply and demand curve for honey. So right here, again, in 2022, it was $2.65. And again, you can make your own supply and demand curve, and for honey, or for any of those options that they had on the website, and you could see how changing the amount sold in pounds could affect the pricing. So, for example, looking at the red one, supply, if the supplier sold in 1 pound bunches, it'll be around $1. If they sold in 3 pound bunches, $2.65. If they sold in 10 pound bunches, they want to sell you those 10 pound bunches for $2.96. Okay, so, but for demand, we are willing to buy, we would like, if we want a 1 pound amount of honey, then we're actually going to be paying a lot more. So the more that we buy, the lower that price is going to be. But as of right now, it's around $2.65. So you could say the demand for honey in 2022, I believe, in 2021 was $2.65 per pound, and you could actually use that to start describing some of the trends that you see here in the data. So actually, if it was for 1 pound, this would actually have to change for 1 pound right there. This is 1 pound in 2021. Okay, so and you can see how trends would change. The supply would change and the demand would change as well if the price goes up or down. Okay, so I'll have the students probably write a quick summary as to what they made from honey, and yes, give it a title. This will be the honey, supply and demand for honey, for the graph that they made, to try to start understanding how it's used in the real world, how it's used in the text, and then how it's used in my personal life. Okay, and all of these together will help ensure that students kind of start understanding what they're reading and how it starts mapping to real concepts that we use every day. So crayons, again, every year they're going to be looking at crayons. And cranberries in the text, again, we could relate it straight directly to what we're actually reading. And then in the world, again, these are all the things that we can look at in this website that we can use to kind of model linearly the relationship between a quantity and the quantity of these vegetables and perishables with the cost.